call the meeting to order. It's Montcalm County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Monday, January 22nd. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Vice Chairman Nahar.
Standing. Welcome Pastor Dennis Ross from Nevins Lakes Church to do our prayer.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for everything that we have. We thank you for warm homes and lots of food to eat. We thank you for providing for what we need here in this county, and we pray that you continue to use our county commissioners, perhaps even the decisions tonight, to bring about your will for all of us. We pray this in Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thank you. Roll call.
Baker,
Present.
Johnston,
Here.
Peterson,
Yes, ma'am.
Painter,
Here.
Mahar,
Here.
Art,
Yes.
Cone.
Present.
Everyone's here and we have a quorum. Everyone have a copy of tonight's agenda? I don't have anything to change.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Johnston,
I would move to approve our agenda as presented.
Support.
it's been moved and supported to approve the agenda as presented. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. There's a set of meeting minutes from last meeting, January 8th, 2024.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Johnston,
I would move to approve our minutes from January 8th, 2024 as presented. Support.
it's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the last meeting, January 8th, 2024 as presented. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public comments.
Good afternoon. My name is Cammie Howe. I am the Association Executive Officer for the Montcalm County Association of Realtors. I saw on your agenda this evening that you will be discussing the impact that the Economic Alliance has had on our community, and I just wanted to share the association's experience with you folks as you're considering these agenda items. Jacob and I met a few months back. We had a very healthy, robust discussion about how economic development is a multi-faceted, multi-layered issue. Housing be a key factor among that. We cannot develop our economic without having housing for workers, not having internet access. We cannot attract folks unless we have those things. So Jacob reached out to me, as I'm a new executive officer, to form that connection, to start looking at that key piece of how we could work together to continue to develop and attract economy to us, attract businesses to us. What is needed on the housing sector? He is actively looking for partnerships with those professionals that can bolster our community to be more attractive to business development. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comments? If not, our 410 agenda item is an impact report from the Montcalm Economic Alliance in the right place. We've got several members here. I know if anyone that wants to present can come on up here to the table and welcome.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Tim Miraz. I'm the Senior Vice President of Community Development for The Right Place. Been with the organization 2008, so it was almost 16 years now. So I served in a variety of roles there, but Now all of our regional partners, including Jacob and MEA, now report up through me in community development, which is the reason I'm here today. So there were some questions. I looked at a prior video of a prior county commission meeting. I believe it was a couple months ago, last month. And there were some questions regarding MEA in the right place, and the impact, the relationship, things like that. And so to get things started, I think all of you received a report on the organization's impact over the past decade. We chose to do it in 2014. That's when the relationship was established. And so we provided you some metrics with that. In addition, there was a presentation that was shared with you. I'd be happy to walk through that if you guys would like. If not, I'd be more than happy just to cut to the chase and answer any questions you might have about that. So if I'm at your disposal. If you'd like me to walk through that presentation, I certainly can do that at this time.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
whatever you prefer, but
Fantastic. So yeah, so I'll flip through here. Hopefully you guys all have a version in front of you. To lead off real quick about just about the partnership. I know there was some question during the commission meeting on who is the right place, who is the EMEA.
This one?
No, the actual.
The actual presentation?
Yeah, the actual presentation. I'm sorry. Yes, the actual presentation. There's a slide in there that says about the partnership. I believe it's slide 2. Just to quickly explain sort of the structure and the goal of that is, the MEA was established, like it says there, is to provide local targeted economic development support. And I'll mention this a couple of times, as we go through the presentation, but really the reason MEA exists is that we believe every county in West Michigan should have someone that gets up every morning and does nothing but serve the business community here in the county, that is dedicated to this county, that is located in this county. So that's why MEA exists. The structure provides a little bit of what we call an expansion of force. Although you have Jacob here in Montcalm County, he lives in Montcalm County, he works in Montcalm County, he serves the business in Montcalm County. He also has the support of 38 of us back in Grand Rapids that work in a variety of areas, including myself. And so if there's a particular grant opportunity that comes up and he's heard of it, but he's not sure about it, he's got 38 people he can pull from. Also that, and everything in terms of economic development, but also the back office stuff, payroll, insurance, taxes, things like that. That's all handled through the right place. And so through one contract the MEA has with the right place provides all of those services and more. The great thing about this is, although he's able to leverage all the resources at the right place, he's still guided by a local board here. So there is no sort of, I'll misuse the term, big brother in Grand Rapids that is telling Montcalm what to do. He has a local board of directors and a board of advisors here in the community that look out for your own community. So in terms of focus, the third slide there, about 3 years ago now, we reorged the organization, reorganized around 3 big pillars. You see there about people, place, and prosperity. Real quick, the people side of things obviously is the workforce development side of things. We want everybody to have equal opportunity to employment. The unique thing that the Right Place and Montcalm Economic Alliance do is there are a lot of organizations statewide and in Montcalm County that help Tim unemployed find a job. There are very few resources that help Jacob, the CEO of XYZ company, find me. And so what we try to do is we try and leverage that 30 years of experience of working with the CEOs, the business leaders from around the community, and help them find resources and position their businesses so that they can find me and they have the talent they can find the talent that they need to succeed. That could be everything from mobility, getting people to work. That could be everything in terms of training. A lot of times we come in to an employer and say, look, who are you hiring for? I'm looking for a mechanical engineer. Okay, what's the pay rate that the mechanical engineer is at? They tell us the pay rate, and we realize it's $12,000 lower than what the market will bear for it. Well, that's part of the problem that you're dealing with. So helping those CEOs, helping those business leaders, helping those HR professionals position their companies to be at the point where they can attract those workers. One of the things I should say off the beginning, a little side note, another value of the MEA is it is a private organization. Although they do receive public funding, it is not a public organization. So what does that allow them to do? That allows them to have that private conversation with that CEO and understand that they have some potential in this hypothetical case, some payroll issues that they need to fix, some compensation issues they need to fix. They can fix those privately with the employer, get them back on track and get them working again. There is no public document that's then made public on that business owner that has to be made public or is foiable or something like that. So it allows them a higher level of trust with a lot of local employers throughout the county. The place side of things, getting back to the agenda, the place side of things, that's my pillar within the right place, and that's really all around placemaking and quality of life initiatives. It follows a basic understanding that you can't hope to keep talent here, attract talent here, or attract businesses here, or keep businesses here if you don't have a vibrant place that you're constantly investing in. You need to invest in your community. Young families, young professionals, they want vibrant places, vibrant downtowns, good quality parks, good trails, to visit, and that initiative, the place initiative, concentrates on that area as well. The prosperity side, that's our old, that's the old business development side of things. That's what everybody knows economic development to be, is business retention, attraction, and retention work. I've already mentioned a couple of these right off the bat in terms of the value of the MEA, slide 4. Like I said, one of the biggest values you have with the MEA is you have a dedicated, and I would add their confidential resource for business leaders. They can have those conversations with somebody out in the community and not have it reported out in public comment someplace. Everything from losing contracts and having to reduce, having to make reductions and skinny up a little bit. Good news, winning new contracts, winning a new automotive bid and having to scale up, and how does that work, and how do I finance things? Finding talent, investing back in the community, anything like that, but having that confidential resource in the community. Community development resource for local community leaders, being a third and fourth and fifth hand for the county, for various villages, for townships, for cities, across Montcalm County. We all know that local government is often strapped, and it's not just rural communities. We have it here. We have it in Grand Rapids, in the greater Grand Rapids area, where people are wearing 4 or 5 hats at a time. Jacob's role is to make sure that they're aware of all of the breadth and depth of resources that are available, across the region, across the state. Also, obviously, being singly focused. You have somebody that gets up, like I said, gets up every morning and serves your community. You don't have somebody that gets up in Grand Rapids and visits here once every other week. If there's a business leader here that needs some business support, that has a question about anything from a curb cut to a business expansion, incentive program, or looking for talent, you've got a resource right here that's no more than 15, 20 minutes away. And then the final thing there is the final point there is around regional and state partnerships. If you flip to the next slide, slide 5, talking about Montcalm's link to regional, state, and federal resources. What I did was I just provided what I call a brief list. I know it's a little bit of an eye chart, but just a brief list of all of the various state and local resources that Jacob works with on a regular basis. These people look for, in essence, the Jacobs in every community to work with. The Office of Rural Development doesn't want to meet with 14 different municipalities across Montcalm County. They want to meet with the person that can speak for the entire county, that is a resource there. When it comes to grant availabilities, when it comes to partnerships, when it comes to solving problems, they want one resource to deal with. And so he has relationships at each and one, he or the right place have relationships with each one of these organizations. And that's part of the value that you get with MEA. So really on slide 6 is, just bottom line, kind of bringing it all back home, is the bottom line of the value is you really have no other, there's no other resource, committee, organization, or group in the county that wakes up every morning with the sole purpose of building and strengthening Montcalm County. You heard in the public comment, just before we started, even in local real estate and housing, that's one of the areas that, that we deal with. Turning now to the impact report, some of the highlights. Again, I'll briefly touch on these. We don't have to go through every one of them, but over the past 10 years, we've had 16. We've been able to touch 16 business expansion and attraction projects. Figure 800 new jobs here, to the community. Those 386 retention calls, those are the ones that I had mentioned earlier. I think that's one of the biggest values that we bring at MEA in the right place is that's 386 times we've sat down with local CEOs, plant managers, and the like, and just set aside time to talk about the business. How's it going? What's going on? Do you have a revolving door of talent? Are you having problems getting freight trucks in and out? Are you having problems with supply chain? Are you expanding? Did you lose a big contract? What's going on in the business? 386 of those we've had. With those 386, we've had over 2,900 company assists that come out of that. So if it's a talent thing, we partner both internally, but we also partner with West Michigan Works and other organizations to connect talent and help employers solve problems. MMTC, real briefly, that stands for the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center. That's a partner organization of ours that strictly and solely is dedicated to more technical manufacturing services. We've been able to partner with them and complete 65 projects here in in Montcalm County. And then one thing I'm proud of, because this is one of the things that I did during COVID when we were all stuck at home, was we worked to administer almost $700,000 in COVID relief grants to small businesses throughout Montcalm County. And I will tell you right now, I ran that program. Montcalm County, the reason Montcalm County got those was because of MEA. I was in Grand Rapids. Like many of you, I was stuck in my house. I was trying my best to distribute millions of dollars in federal funding to whatever businesses I could to help them stay afloat. And MEA was the one that was voicing into my ear, into my inbox, saying, this company, this company, this company, this company, calling local businesses saying, this grant opportunity is open. You need to apply today. Let me help you get your application in. Let me help you scan your W-2s and your W-4s so you get in and you qualify for this grant. They were the ones that went to bat for a lot of these small businesses, which was almost $700,000 worth of grants during that time. In terms of geography, you can see on slide 8, sort of the geographic distribution. Obviously, there's a lot in the city of Greenville, and that's just because of the nature of business. That's business tends to concentrate in cities. Our business intelligence folks thought that you might want to see it even split out even further, and so slide 9 shows that each one of those 3 grants that we did over COVID, and how many grants were issued and the total dollar amounts for those grants. So, like I said, we're happy to talk more about that. So that was my purpose today, was at least give you guys kind of a background on what's been achieved, why we exist, why the partnership exists, and what the value is. Now I want to transition a little bit, give Jacob the floor and talk about kind of where we're going from here, starting 2024 going forward. Jacob.
So thank you for that lead off, Tim, and thank you to the board for allowing us to come back in and speak a little bit more about my work and the work of the Right Place on a regular basis here in the county. I'm not going to spend too much time lamenting on that first one. I went through that in a little bit more detail a couple months ago, our strategic plan, really just condensing that down into those 3 that you see on that list there, advocating for municipal and community organization collaborations, whether that's quarterly manager meetings with municipalities, whether that's hosting events for township supervisors and planning commissions to better understand planning, zoning, land use, different things like that. And then if you'll recall, when I was here in October, it was the day before our first developer day. So just a quick readout from that, if you didn't see the wonderful write-up that Elizabeth had in the paper on that. We had 23 attendees with us throughout the day, visiting around 13 sites through Cato Township, Lakeview, Howard City, Reynolds Township, and Pearson Township as well. So a really good opportunity to bring some potential developers in, whether that's for the redevelopment of a property that might be blighted or underused, looking at housing opportunities, or in some cases, even small industrial. So just a high level on that. And then slide number 11 there to look at the project pipeline. Obviously, as Tim mentioned, there's some elements of confidentiality depending on what we're looking at for the business, but the pipeline we've got going into 2024, we've got 5 business development projects. You can see kind of where those are at. Most of those are potential expansions. So a PA 198 would be the usual incentive that we're going to use there. The state will be at the table for some of those based on the industry that those are. And then the 2 community development projects, I'm sure you're all aware of the Sheridan Brownfield site that's kind of sitting in the center of the county, and the opportunities for redevelopment there. So working with the property owner and Eagle with that for redeveloping that, cleaning up the brownfield, any vapor barriers, different things that they need to do on the environmental end. And then I mentioned this in October as well, but obviously the Kelsey Hospital property in downtown Lakeview, and I did throw an asterisk on that, as we're working very closely with Darren Doe, the village manager, as well as Corewell Health, since they're still the property owner, to see what the silver lining and opportunities for that redevelopment of that property are. You'll see a lot more coming out on that through now in June. So stay tuned for that information. And then this last slide here, Tim had mentioned people, place, prosperity. Those are the 3 Ps at the right place that really guide all of our work. And I extend that to my time here up in Montcalm County. As Tim mentioned, I live here. That was a big part of taking this job for me, was wanting to understand Montcalm County as best I could. So I chose to move here. So I take people, place, prosperity very personally, not just professionally. But looking at some of my high-level goals for that, our talent team ran this through Mason last year, and it's the My Talent 360 talent assessment. So my goal is to work with at least 10 companies and organizations, and hopefully a whole lot more of that once we start to see the benefit of that. And that could be anything from a one-person chamber taking a quiz on what their hiring practices are when they work with outside vendors, different things like that. What are their internal hiring practices as well? And that can scale up to a company with 5,000 employees. So really good information to help with attraction and retention of your employees and the talent pool that we have available right now. And then on the place end, having at least one project identified and included in the revitalization and placemaking grant. So the state is heading to its 3rd year with this. So RAP 3.0 this year, the focus is on public spaces and community gathering areas. So whether that could be the example I like to use is the universal playground that Pearson Township put in with some of their grant dollars, and really just thinking about what are those opportunities to build placemaking and really make a place feel like home for everyone of all ages. And the last one there on the prosperity end is to have 40 retention visits with new and existing businesses. So that speaks to that number that Tim had mentioned as well, anywhere between 30 and 50 in a year. A lot of those with businesses in industrial parks, some of those with small businesses and entrepreneurs as well. And then as I switch over to the place side of things, instead of prosperity, municipal visits will also be counted with that. And that was one of my goals. My first year was to get out to go at least visit a township, if not tour and attend some of their meetings. So really just doubling down on that element of traditional retention visits, but also in thinking of this new org restructure, the things that we can double down on with municipalities. But with that, do you have anything that you want to close with?
So I hope that gives you kind of an overview. Answer some of the questions that you had before. The only other thing I'll add is that, another example of the collaboration that we have between the Right Place and MEA is that Developer Day event. I didn't know you were going to bring that up, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Developer Day was something that we created down in Grand Rapids through the Right Place a couple of years ago. Turned out to be a pretty big success. We turned that playbook over to MEA and said, hey, if you want to do it, we'll help you pull it off. This is how we did it. This is who we invite. Here's our book of contacts of developers from around the state of Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Invite them. So without that partnership, none of that would have ever happened. So with that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Okay, good. Anyone have any questions for either one of these gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Commissioner Peterson.
I guess I feel since I was the one that brought all this up, I should at least have one question or two. A couple of things you in your impact report highlights. You talk about 16 business attraction and expansion projects, 797 new jobs, 187 retained jobs. It's all fine and good that you put those on paper, but where are they?
Yep.
I mean, you can tell me that you have 1 million new jobs, but you can't tell me where.
Well, so to answer that question, each one of those projects has been outlined in the report. Also, every year, each one of these companies has to report back to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, because most of them are incentivized. Every incentive program through the state of Michigan is performance-based. If you don't hit the numbers, you don't get the money. And so each one of those are audited every year and provided back to us.
So they get money from the state to retain employees?
If they're at risk of leaving. So that's what the retention is if we hear from a business that they're hearing heat from their customer, we really need you in El Paso.
So you guys just go, you act as a middleman between the state and the companies and say, hey, these people are thinking about leaving. If you want your state funding, you need to retain these employees?
Correct. Usually what happens is in that case, in this hypothetical case, the company comes to us and says, look, I'm getting heat. My customer needs me in El Paso. Here's the price difference. If I stay here, this is how much it's going to cost me to stay here and do business in Michigan. We make that business case, present it to the state of Michigan and the MEDC on behalf of that company to make sure that company stays here.
So it's basically, you guys are kind of an agent to ensure government subsidies. Is that what I'm kind of gathering?
Not at all, sir.
Okay. So when you say 30 or 386 retention calls, that's 38.6 over the 10 years that you said this impact was from 2014, correct?
Moving forward, yes.
So that's one call every 9.5 days or so?
Correct, sir.
Okay. What's in between there? What do we, is it just grant writing? I mean, it's just hard for me to wrap my mind around 386 retention calls in 10 years. And I still just don't understand how you guys take credit for that. It's just hard for me to wrap my mind around. Also, there's no way to FOIA how you guys spend your money, correct? Like we can't FOIA or be told as a board how you guys spend any of your money, Right Place or MEA, correct?
No, I mean, we'd be happy to report it if you like it, but because we're a
But
private organization, we can't FOIA it.
The whole debate starting with taxpayer money. So John Q. taxpayer couldn't go to MEA or the Right Place and say, I want to know how you spend your money, correct?
They could absolutely, we've never had that request. So
Okay. So you said earlier in your presentation that you're investing in Montcalm County. Is it just a time investment or is it a money investment?
no, it's currently his time investment.
Okay. I think I had a couple other things here. The Kelsey Hospital property, I know you're not going to talk about it until June, but what is your guys's, what could you guys do there? Just see who wants to come in and buy that place, or who's gonna fill it?
Yep. So again, we were approached by Corewell Health in the village of Lakeview to revision. This is happening. The reality is this is happening. How do we pivot from this? Well, what are the opportunities out there? And really what it turns into is a real estate project. What are you going to do with the real estate? It's not going to function as a hospital anymore. So what the Right Place does is we started opening up our books and started making calls to various developers to say, look, there is this project. It's in this place called Lakeview. And literally bringing developers. We've had 2 or 3 developers already that have come up there to put boots on the ground and walk that site with the local folks from Corewell Health and say, what can be done with this? Can it be converted to housing? Can it be converted to a hotel, sort of a destination place? I mean, they've done that up in Traverse City. What are the options here to redevelop this thing so that Darren's not doing this all by himself up there?
And then I guess just for my own peace of mind, how many directors of the MEA have you had in this 10-year span?
I would be
3,
the
4.
third. Kathy Jo
Okay.
was in the role a good chunk of time, and then there was Olivia Blomstrom, and I've been here just over a year.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Cohn?
I always like to get specifics. You had mentioned you helped the company with supply chain issues when you were giving your presentation. What exactly did you do to help them with their supply chain issues?
So it depends on the situation.
Well, it sounded when you were talking, it sounded like you had mentioned a specific. You didn't mention a specific business, but that was the gist I got from it. Because you were thinking about a specific instance of helping them with their supply chain.
Correct.
And I'm
So,
wondering what you did exactly.
so many times it is finding local suppliers to replace suppliers in distant areas, whether it be a supplier that's currently in Alabama that can be supplied here locally. It may not be in Montcalm County, but if it's coming out of Lansing, if it's coming out of Grand Rapids, if it's coming out of Muskegon, if it's coming out of Newaygo, it's still closer than it is Alabama. Other times it's service oriented. Business is going through an expansion. They're looking for engineering services. They're looking for architectural services. We can provide a variety of solutions and local resources for that. Do we pick an individual and promote an individual? No, we are not in the business of doing that. We are not business brokers.
And which company in Montcalm County did you help with their supply chain?
That I can't mention any specific one.
Because of confidentiality?
Correct.
I see. So the gist I'm getting is you're basically acting as agents for businesses. Would that be a fair way to characterize it?
A resource for businesses, yes. I mean,
You're an agent, basically, right? You're helping them.
yes.
That's what agents do.
We do. Do we?
I don't mean that in a negative way.
Okay, I think of secret agent. I don't like to go down that route. But yes.
I think about it like a real estate agent. Real estate agent puts buyers and sellers together.
One of the important differences here is most of the time I would say that an agent is compensated for their work. We are not compensated for our work.
Oh, then you don't need county money.
Well, actually, we do need county money because we're not compensated for that work. But in the case of Foremost Farms, Foremost Farms did not pay for the services that we did to help them with that project. Now, eventually, if they want to give back to the organization as an investment in the organization, become an investor, just like we all have private investors. The Right Place has private investors in our organizations, private supporters, we call it investors, donors, if you will. They're happy to donate, but there is no quid pro quo on that.
Right.
And there is no
You're
invoice.
asking the taxpayers to help Foremost.
As part of the overall fundraising strategy. For example, the Right Place, in terms of the Right Place, depending on the year, 30 to 35% of our funding is from the public. 70% is from private. That percentage is a lot higher because we have a larger business pool to pull from. Newaygo County, I believe Newaygo County is mostly
65%.
public.
65% from the county.
So it varies community to community, depending on what your business climate is and what your resources are to make that work.
I just have two more questions. Is that okay?
Yep.
I want to get something that Adam was mentioning has always puzzled me, but maybe you can help me. How do you define a job retained? How does a job retained fall into that category of job retained? What's your definition?
A job retained is a job that is located at a business that is at risk of leaving our community
Okay.
for a variety of reasons.
So if I had a job in the county, I employed 1,000 people, and I called my legislator up and said, I'm overtaxed. I'm thinking about moving to Indiana. Somehow you'd find out about that. Somehow.
Hopefully.
And then you'd call me, right? And say, you got to think this through. There's all these things you're unaware of, programs, grants, whatever it might be, incentives, right? You're going to help me navigate the system, state of Michigan system. And I decide I'm not going to move, right?
Okay.
So in your ledger, that's 1,000 jobs retained.
If they stay, yes, sir.
Okay. And my final question.
Okay.
Let's say I want to start up a business. I don't know, make piggy banks. How do I know the right place exists? How would I know to even go to the right place? Who would I call?
So do you want to talk a little bit about?
I have an idea.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I guess an example from my first year would be our pitch competition. Normally, that would be having a contact with the local chamber, We do our pitch competition with Ionia County, but obviously Howard City has a newly reestablished Chamber of Commerce, but I also have a close relationship with the City of Greenville's Chamber of Commerce. And I've had on more than one instance, Paul, the director of the Greenville Chamber, say, hey, I've got an entrepreneur, I've got a small business owner who's either looking to expand, they're looking for a brick and mortar, and just essentially email set me up, or I'll schedule a one-on-one with them. So depending what the scale of it is, if it's piggy banks, if you think with maybe $6,000 as your first prize, I would certainly encourage you to come give your pitch competition at the My Pitch competition. Outside of that, we have contacts from the SBDC in Grand Rapids and in Kent County, and just helping folks make connections if they didn't necessarily know those opportunities and resources or individuals or services might have been out there.
So I just type pitch competition into Google and it pops up.
So our specific program is called the My Pitch competition.
What's your phone number? How about that?
989-330-6443.
Okay.
And you can also find that on the MEA's Facebook page, and then in my About Me through the Right Places staff page, as well as my email.
You said 989-3, what is it?
330-6443.
330. Can't read my own handwriting.
6443. Correct.
Okay. The reason I'm asking that, it may sound kind of silly, but a lot of people just have ideas
Mhm.
and they don't know where to go. So it sounds like, in my mind, finding you would be kind of hard. How would I even know that the right place is even an entity? How do you promote yourself? How are you out there so that if I want to start a business, I would even know to go to this thing called the right place?
7 of us that just heard their pitch.
Right.
There you go.
How do you get the word out? Or do you just expect businesses to know you're there?
Most of it's relationship based. We've got 10 years of meeting with businesses.
Right. But if I don't have a business,
Right.
I'm not in that ecosystem.
That's why we collaborate with the community colleges. We collaborate with the Chamber of Commerce. If I'm creating a business, usually my first point of contact can be a small business development center, which not our thing. It's located in Kent County. It's where it is, and they will redirect up to Jacob because he's the local guy because they have that relationship there.
Right.
If it's the Chamber of Commerce, you walk into the Chamber of Commerce will be happy to help, but they're also going to call Jacob in when it comes to financing and everything else and, business model planning and things like that. So for us, everything's relationship based.
And I will say back to the pitch competition, because I'm looking at Elizabeth, we do work with the Daily News. Normally that program's covered both in anticipation of who those finalists are, who the winners were on the backside of that, and then in the weeks up to that program, just advertising, hey, if you have an idea, it could be anything from you and your buddy had a really good idea at watching the Lions game last night, so you wrote it down on a napkin, to a company that you might have a small business and you're looking to expand, and what would those 2 or 3 resources that you might not be able to afford right now, but if you won money from that pitch competition, that could help you buy or purchase some of those resources. So we do work with the local paper in terms of our Developer Day program, which was our first time this year, and then we're rolling into the 4th year of the annual My Pitch competition.
You have a Facebook page?
We do have a Facebook page, and that's actually one of my more specific goals through the People, Place, and Prosperity is to be more active on that Facebook page. That's something I talk about with businesses in general. Greenville Tool and Die is a really good example of that. You're a manufacturer, but you have to have an online presence. And that's going to be one of those things that helps attract that younger generation of workers, even just seeing that you have an online presence. So for me, in addition to a monthly newsletter that will go out the last Monday of every month, those are just our regular membership emails, making regular postings, whether that's, hey, the revitalization and the RAP 2.0 or 3.0, that grant application has opened, putting that on Facebook. We do have a lot of our township folks that follow that Facebook page as well. So just different places to share information, and then just attending different community events. This Thursday, the Greenville Chamber has their annual awards, attending different just community events throughout the county, and just trying to be the face and the name so people do know who I am and what I might be able to help them do if they've got an idea or something that they're trying to work through.
Anyone else? Questions for either one of these gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Baker?
I would move to fund the Montcalm Economic Alliance at $30,000.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to fund the Montcalm Economic Alliance, $30,000 this year. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Peterson?
Brenda, how many other private companies does the county give money to yearly?
We're not giving money to a private company. We're giving it to the Montcalm Economic Alliance.
Right, which is run through the right place, correct?
No, it's a board.
It's a
There's
5
no board members are in the audience. I'm on that board.
So this $30,000 goes to a county-run program.
Pretty much so. I mean, that board works on the county's behalf. I mean, anything that's brought into the county, no matter where it's at, Greenville or Lakeview or Howard City, it benefits the entire county. I mean, I guess that was my goal in increasing that donation or contribution every year, was to help the entire county out. And I'm going to get on my bandstand and preach about the east side of the county every chance I get, because the east side of the county doesn't see anything really. So that's been my mantra since I've been in this seat, is we need to be doing more on the east side of the county. But we
Right,
can't be
looking-
doing more if we're not given.
Right, and looking
We're
through
gonna-
these list of businesses in our packet, which ones are on the east side of the county?
The city of Carson City gives, Stanton gives.
No, I'm saying which of these businesses that are listed as what the right place and MEA have helped, which ones are on the east side of the
That's
county?
my point.
Right.
But you're not going to get more help to the east side of the county if you give less, is also my point.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Up next, our 425, we have Lisa Kaspriak with us from our medical examiner's office for our annual medical examiner report. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Kaspriak, and I am the administrator of your medical examiner's office and also the administrator for the 13 other counties that Mid-Michigan Medical Examiner Group serves. So I'd like to give the annual report of the medical examiner's office and answer any questions that you have regarding any of our new projects or any of the state of the medical examiner's office for Montcalm County. So just we won't address the monthly report that I give you, but I did include it in case you have any questions for me regarding that. But we'll go over the annual report. I'm not going to read it to you, but we'll start on page 4 with the state of the staff that we have. Montcalm is very healthy with the number of medical examiner investigators. They reside throughout the county. We train them on a regular basis, a monthly basis, toward the national certification of death scene investigators, which is something that's really important to your prosecutor should they ever have to be put on the stand. You can realize that every scene, every time is investigated according to national standards. So we're very proud of our education system for the staff that we have. And then to go over the types of deaths that the medical examiner's office reviews, not to be confused with just regular deaths that happen in the county, but every single one of these are unexpected. So as you can see on page 6, we investigated 174 deaths. So that 174 decedents touched the lives of their next of kins, friends, and family as a death that was unexpected. The medical examiner investigators are really great at dealing with the families and coming to their investigations knowing that this is going to be very difficult on the families. On page 7, we went over the manner of death by month. As you can see, January is our largest month for cases. This January is proving no difference. We've had a record number of cases, but you can see the spread of the types of death that we have throughout the year. Our office is taxed with making sure that if we have a large increase in a certain type of death, that we respond appropriately, whether it be to report that to your emergency management program or your Michigan Department of Health and Human Services in your particular area, or as a state level. The manner of death by age on page 8 shows just as it should. If we were to have an increase in any of the age categories, that's again something that we'd pay attention to so that we can make sure that we're addressing this with the public and making sure that we are presenting anything that needs to be dealt with regarding ages. If we see suicides, for example, in a younger category and a big spike, we'll of course want to report that. Natural deaths, that just gives you an example of what the natural death categories are, of course, and we find that to be in line with the other areas that we serve and within the state of Michigan. So that natural death category is the largest category, so we have 2 pages of that of information. So as we like to see natural deaths as the largest category of deaths that we deal with. Your accidental deaths, overdoses are actually the largest category of our accidental deaths with 39%, only followed second by motor vehicle accidents. So that's something that has been on the rise for the past number of years. Overdoses are definitely something we pay attention to. We have a dedicated staff member now that deals with reporting the different characteristics of each of those overdose deaths. So overdose deaths really is, it's really important to know that, your overdose deaths aren't just categorized with one type of family. It's definitely not something that's stereotyped. We have, within the range of our 14 counties, ages all the way from 4 years old of an overdose all the way up to the age of 92 years old. So that ranges, with a 4-year-old maybe being in the same household as parents who are doing meth. There's all the way up to medications that maybe a 92-year-old would be taking mixed toxicity or an overdose of their own medications that they weren't supposed to. So it's important to realize that it's not just somebody who's using and abusing within them, their own misuse, but also there's a lot of other categories. And, some of those are types that would fall into a prosecutorial case, and we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make, to keep the streets of Montcalm County clean and safe. So then moving on, transportation accidents, as you can see, auto and then motorcycle. Suicides. So we did finally have a decrease in suicides the last year, which was wonderful because we had been on a couple-year increase. So suicides have gone down, and we're very thankful for that, though 2024 has not been great to us so far. Over November, December, and January, we've had a little bit of an uptick, but for the most part, 2023 was a better year for Montcalm County for suicides. Now to the mention of drugs and cause of death. This is something that our a dedicated employee to drugs has been taxed with. And so she pays attention to whether or not we've seeing more, fentanyl, cocaine, other opioids, THC, methamphetamine, from year to year. And usually that's a regional thing for the state, and it just depends on where the supply chain is. So we do report that. The state of Michigan and so many other agencies are interested in statistics and numbers. And so this is something that we keep track of. And then kind of the silver lining in things. Each time we help a donor give their body to Gift of Life, each body can save up to, in a touch, 75 different lives. So a Montcalm County resident, 2 of them last year were able to give and improve the lives of multiple others. So that's really our silver lining. And then on page 16, that just goes over the counties that we serve. We had a really great mass fatality review that we did. We had a Newaygo County practice session. And so that really is important for all of our counties because we are able to pull all resources from 14 counties that we have in case Montcalm County was to ever have an incident. So we hope that never happens, but if we do happen to have a mass fatality in this county, we are prepared, practiced, and ready to go with all of the resources that we have. Just a side note, not inside the packet, but we are working on new technology for autopsies. I talked to a couple commissioners here earlier. We have a lot of different irons in the fire for that. So the regular autopsies that were done the past 100 years, those are invasive. We are looking at the new technology that's in use in over 24 different offices across the United States right now, and that would be by utilizing a CT scanner. We can detect up to 85% of all causes of death by using a non-invasive imaging by using that CT scanner. So we're very proud to be introducing that in the next little while to Montcalm County as well, and keeping up with all the advancements for Montcalm. So I'd love to answer any questions that you would have.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Lisa on that?
Where do I begin?
Oh, wonderful.
I just have just curious about a few things.
Sure.
How do you know if an overdose is accidental or suicidal?
Ooh, that's really good. So that is, there's the totality of the case takes in the combination of whether or not it's an illicit drug, but then sometimes illicit drugs can actually still be accidental. Just because you like taking something doesn't mean that you are necessarily meaning to die from it. It does not mean that it's a suicide. In fact, some of the problems with the novel drugs is they're being tainted with something that this normal abuser is not used to. And so that would be considered an accident. Now, when we look at the totality of the case, we look at reasons, history, we interview the next of kin. Not everybody leaves a note. And then sometimes that would be an undetermined overdose if we're not able, if we're just not sure. We've had a couple where it was on the line. So the totality of the case, and we work really closely with law enforcement and the next of kin.
So sometimes it's professional judgment based on
Oh,
the information you can gather.
Absolutely.
No note, no,
No, and no case ever seems to be the same.
Okay. Mention of drugs and cause of death. It lists all the drugs here.
Mm-hmm.
So there, a couple things came to my mind.
Yes.
Next time when you're here,
Yes.
this is the only chart that has 2 years of data.
Right.
So it's the only thing that shows us any kind of trend or increase or decrease. It'd be nice if next time you had last year's
Sure.
numbers.
Inside that,
23 numbers
yes.
with the 24 numbers.
Yes. I can also, if you look at your monthly report, you can see each category back from 2019, but I can definitely try and incorporate a couple of those.
I found that very helpful.
Yes. Yes.
And of all these drugs and cause of death,
Mhm.
how many of these people were considered homeless?
We don't, we do track, but I don't have that data right now. We have a huge spreadsheet that you could ask me multiple different questions. So I don't have that right off, but I could definitely get that to you if you'd like. I could make sure that I get that to Brendan. She could email that.
I'm curious about that.
Yes.
That was it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Well, all right. I thank you for your time.
Lisa.
Yes. Thank you.
Our 4:35, we have the maintenance director, Doug Eaton, with us to give us his recommendation on the paint bids for the court complex. Noon, Doug.
How we doing?
Good.
So yeah, we put out to contractors to bid basically the public area of the courthouse. Same place that we walked a couple months ago when we were looking at carpet and all that. Carpet still needs replacing. That'll be next, but we thought it'd make more sense to get the painting done first and then replace the carpet and base after the fact. So we had, I believe, 9 bidders that bid this. We were recommending that Jack Jouster Painting, the ones that did this building as well, be the ones. They were the lowest number, and we have no issues with their work. They're a somewhat local contractor, I believe, Sheridan area. Just bringing it to you guys.
Okay. Anyone
Mr.
have-
Chairman,
Commissioner Peterson.
I move to accept the court complex painting bid with Jack Jouster Painting LLC not to exceed $6,490.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to accept the court complex painting bid with Jack Jouster Painting LLC for $6,490. Discussion. Does that include some drywall work?
Drywall work has already been done.
Oh, okay. You guys just do that?
We had a contractor come in. We had some doors that leaked and rotted out those corners, so we had a contractor come in and fix those.
Okay.
So that was leading to the next step of getting things painted. We primed everything that he drywalled, so they just need to come in and do a 2-coat paint process.
Nice. Good.
So this company submitted the lowest bid and you have experience with them.
Correct.
Would they start on it right away or this winter? Don't
Yes, yeah. I think their thought was in 2 to 3 weeks, probably.
know. Okay, good. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Peterson.
Doug, this isn't related to the painting bid, but on a scale from 9 to 10, how much are you liking snow plowing this winter?
Doesn't bother me a whole lot. The guys aren't too they don't like it all that well, especially on the
Hammered your
weekend.
first year.
Yeah.
Boy, howdy.
No, I asked them today, I said, do I need to take 2 sets of plow truck keys up there with me or what? And they said, no, we'll keep doing it. So
Okay,
they're kind of having fun playing with the equipment right now.
there
So
you go.
we have, just so you guys know, the County Road Commission has given us to use at a small fee, a military style loader, and we have purchased a 12-foot push for it, so we can clear the bigger parking lots a lot easier, a lot quicker now. So that's quite helpful.
Did you check that truck out over by Turk Lake?
I don't have another body to put in it, so.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Up next, we have Eric Smith, EMS Director, Emergency Manager, to give us the standby rates and department update. Good afternoon, Eric.
Good afternoon. We haven't visited our standby rates for our contracted standby for either rescues, our BLS ambulance or ALS ambulances in a number of years. The long-standing rates are included in the agenda request there. Recently, we went through, basically did a cost analysis, see what it costs us to provide those services on an hourly basis. Basically rounded it up to the next $5. and said that's what we want to do going forward with our standby rates. So just here to change them.
Some commissioners might not know. Standby, you're talking about when you get asked to stand by, like at the snowmobile race or the football game. Or
Yes, good point.
Electric Forest or something like
There
that.
are various places in and outside our county that will quite regularly contract with us to provide an ambulance and people to stand by at an event that's dedicated just to that event. So basically we have an extra ambulance, extra crew, extra everything that goes to an event, but it stays at that event just for that event. So it doesn't really count as part of our regular rotation. When we have those dedicated standbys, we bill for that on an hourly rate or a half-hour rate, depending on how you want to look at it. So that's what we're looking to just update those rates to a more current cost based on our cost analysis, what it costs us to provide those services.
Anyone have any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Phil.
are you currently charging extra to be out of the county?
We honestly try not to do those. And the last couple of years, the only ones that we've done have been Electric Forest over in Rothbury, and that has a whole separate contract with the company. But there have been times where we have been requested basically last minute emergency, oh no, can you help us? If not, we're gonna have to cancel our event kind of deal. So we do want to have established out of county rates in case, but we don't want to do them. But it's kind of a just in case.
So if you really want us, you got to pay double.
Well, that was kind of the low hanging fruit, because if we're going out of county someplace, we're going to have to drive the vehicle farther there and back. It's going to cost more to do that. We're going to have to pay the people more time and overtime because they're going to be in the truck longer, getting there, getting back. And it may be something as simple as Sand Lake, where it's not much extra expense at all, or we've done them all the way down in Portland.
Right.
So rather than try to figure out something, we'll just make it easy and just say double across the board if it's out of the county.
Pardon my ignorance here. I understand the word rescue, but what's BLS and ALS?
BLS is 2 EMTs and ALS is going to be at least 1 paramedic. All of the regular ambulances running around are all advanced life support, but we do sometimes have basic life support with 2 EMTs. And there are some organizations that request just a basic life support ambulance, and some request advanced life support ambulance. So obviously advanced costs more because lots more equipment and the people are higher licensed and more educated and more expensive.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Peterson.
I move to adjust standby rates to 55 an hour for rescue, 85 an hour for BLS, 95 an hour for ALS, and 2 times that rate for out-of-county standby events.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Discussion? Yeah, Commissioner Painter.
Do you know when these rates were set? How long
I
have they
don't,
been?
I know it wasn't me, so I know it's been 219 or prior to that.
Okay, makes sense. That's all I had. Thanks.
Yes, I don't know.
Any other discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Anybody have any questions on the report and the update and all the stats or anything while I'm here? If you do, you know how to get a hold of me.
Thanks, Eric. That ends our timed agenda items. Next up is correspondence. Vice Chairman Mahar, please.
For your consideration, item number 1, you'll find on page 32, a request to appoint Donna Kellogg for a 3-year term to the Montcalm County Housing Commission Board. On page 33, you'll find a recommendation letter that was signed by Executive Director Mariah Page and Chairman Stephen Mike Scott. Does anybody have any concerns or thoughts on this appointment? If not, I'll move to approve the appointment of Donna Kellogg to serve on the Montcalm County Housing Commission Board for a 3-year term from February 15th, 2024 to February 15th, 2027.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion. Commissioner Baker.
Yes, under discussion, I'd just like to mention that the director typically recommends through the commission over there appointments to us. In this case, this recommendation came from the Resident Advisory Committee, and it was given to the director. Now, that group is made up of all the people that live in the various departments. So that's the group that picked this party. And that's how we got to that point. It didn't have anything to do with us or the commission over there in particular. It was the Resident Advisory Committee that actually deals with all the residents. They meet and decide on what they want to recommend to the director over there.
Okay, good point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item number 2 on page 34. You will find a request that we approve Sarah Daly. She is currently a trustee for Crystal Township, and she is interested in filling the position of the newly formed Committee Advancement Committee. Any thoughts, concerns?
This was the one slot that we had open at the organizational meeting. We didn't have anyone to fill it at that time. Since then, I found someone that was interested, and so that's why it's coming today.
And we had kind of directed the controller to find someone from the east side of the county if we could, and she fits that bill.
I'll move to approve the appointment of Sarah Daly to serve on the Community Advancement Committee with a term expiring 12/31 of 2025.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Moving on to item 3, page 35. You will see a request that we approve the FOP contract. On pages 36 through 39, you will find portions of the contract that have been changed, highlighted in red. Following that, I think you can find the entire contract. Does anybody have any thoughts or concerns or questions in regards to the changes in this contract?
Yeah.
If not, I'll move to approve the Fraternal Order of Police Union contract for the term of January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2026, and allow for signatures.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the FOP contract for the term of January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2026, and allow for the appropriate signatures. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Cohen.
how long was did this negotiation go on?
Since September.
We've been talking about it for a long time.
Mhm.
This was the best we could do. Fairly negotiated, you would say?
Committee members think that we're.
I think it's a fair
Alright.
contract. I guess that if I had any frustration or disappointment with it is that there was some time wasted in the process, I think. We could have absorbed more information per meeting than what they provided. They probably feel the same way about us, I suppose. So, and we've expressed that to them, and I hope that maybe the next cycle, everybody comes to the table with a more information or a better prepared plan up front so that it doesn't drag on that long. But in this case, I guess they are hurt to some degree because their contract there's not any retroactivity on the wages. So they went from January 1 until this can get ratified by us before they can receive that next year pay raise. So I think all in all, it's a fair contract.
I think it was the least we could have done to at least establish some sort of parity with the road deputies in their 14% raise. Obviously it's not apples to apples, but we kind of put ourselves in a little bit of a hole, a little bit of a tough spot, just granting 14% raises out of just because it's millage money. Now we're going to have to, we're seeing it in contract negotiations right now. We're trying to create some sort of fairness, and it's not always, the easiest thing to do. But as far as this contract, I think both sides are happy with it. And yeah, it's just where we got to be at this moment.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item number 4, starting on page 81, is warrant report 01112024 in the amount of $182,486.74. Item number 5, starting on page 95, warrant report 01182024 in the amount of $317,342.21. Item number 6, starting on page 105, warrant report 01222024 in the amount of $403,182.63 for a grand total of those 3 warrant reports of $903,011.58. Any comments on the warrant reports? If there are none, I will move to accept the paying of the warrant reports in the amount of $903,011.58.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to accept 3 warrant reports for a grand total of $903,011.58. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
On your consent agenda, items 7 through 17. Any concern over anything on the consent agenda? If not, I'll move to place those items on file.
Support. It's been moved and supported to place the consent agenda items 7 through 17 on file. Discussion. If there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Items 18 through 20 are for your information only. We have no other county resolutions. And that'll be the end of your board correspondence.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Mahar. Up next is committee reports. Chairman Peterson, we have 3 collective bargaining.
Okay, first up, AFSCME negotiations Wednesday, January 10th. Members present, myself, Charlie Mahar, Ron Baker as an alternate. Pat Carr was absent along with Chris Johnston. There's other people present. Called the meeting to order at 9:31. Public comments were offered, none were given. Moved to go into closed session at 9:32. Moved to come out of closed session at 12:43. Public comments were offered again, none were given. Motion to adjourn at 12:43. I would move to place these minutes on file.
Or it's been moved and supported to place collective bargaining minutes from January 10th on file. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, next up is the FOP bargaining from Tuesday, January 16th at 9 a.m. Members present, myself, Pat Carr, Ron Baker, absent, Mahar and Johnston. Others were present. Called to order at 9:01. Public comments were offered, none were given. Motion to go into closed session at 9:01. Motion to come out of closed session at 11:07. Again, public comments were offered, none were given. Motion to adjourn at 11:07. I move to place these minutes from January 16th on file.
Support. Been moved and supported to place the collective bargaining from the 16th of January on file. Discussion. Just under discussion. We talked about this a little bit last year. I'd just like to point out on this one, I didn't catch it on the last one, but this one and the last one show Commissioner Johnston is absent. He's an alternate. Technically, he's not absent. He wasn't needed there. So it's not really an absence. So that's my only comment. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, lastly, IAEP negotiations from Wednesday, January 17th. Members present, myself, Pat Carr, Ron Baker, and Charlie Mahar. Others were present. Commissioner Peterson called the meeting to order at 9 a.m. Public comments were offered, none were given. Motioned at 9 a.m. to go into executive session. Motioned at 11:42 to come out of executive session. Public comments were again offered, none were given. It was motioned to adjourn at 11:42. I move to place the minutes from Wednesday, January 17th on file.
It's been moved and supported to place the collective bargaining minutes from January 17th, 2024 on file. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Chairman Peterson.
Thank you.
New business, item 1, clerk correspondence.
None.
Controller correspondence, number 2.
I have a couple of things.
Okay.
Has anyone given any thought to the passport equipment and what they think about just either giving that to the library once they're up and running or selling it to them for $1, or what's your preference?
Can we legally give it to them?
Sure.
I mean, what would it really net us if we sold it to them? I mean, nothing.
Not much, probably.
$1.
What was it? The White Pine Library?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Peterson.
I move to gift the passport equipment to the White Pine Library when they're up and running with their passport.
Support. It's been moved and supported to gift the county's passport equipment to the White Pine Library when they have received approval to do passports. Discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, one more item of clarification, basically. At the last meeting, we granted, or you granted, Autumn an additional animal control officer. Was your intent to allow her to replace that part-time kennel attendant position that Emma was moving out of? It wasn't really discussed, and it's come up. I knew it would come up, but.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Baker.
I thought I discussed it. I thought we said that we needed 3 more people out there and yeah, and we don't have a full roster yet. So yeah, I think we discussed it a little bit. I think we're short on help, which means you might have to add that other person back in if you replace.
So is everyone okay with her backfilling that part-time kennel attendant?
Just remind us of how that was a part-time kennel attendant that she asked us to make full-time to go as an animal control officer.
Correct.
So I don't disagree with Commissioner Baker that probably need help there. However, I don't think that the intention of last meeting's action was necessarily that. I think we were approving her to go from a part-time person to a full-time position and change the job title. But I don't know that allowing her to do that isn't prudent, and we can certainly take action today to make that happen.
I guess in my thought train, I thought it was just moving this gal up to full-time animal control officer, obviously to cover an upcoming absence of an undetermined amount of time. And I didn't think we were eliminating that other position. I guess that was my,
So we were adding FTEs then to the.
I
staffing
mean,
summary?
essentially, wouldn't we essentially just be adding a half of a person?
Essentially,
Yeah.
because her other full-time ACO was only doing part-time, so.
Right.
yeah.
And then we still fall short of our 3 or 4 that we might need for the county, not for that building, but the county.
I don't know.
Just a thought.
Never done a survey there. Is everyone good with that? Or do you wanna do
I'm not
a-
sure I copied what you were saying. It was my understanding that we were taking her from a part-time to a full-time. I didn't think that meant hiring another person to replace that other position. Not that it couldn't be justified, not that I wouldn't vote for it. I just, do we have the evidence that we need that other person, I guess. I mean, and if the board says, yeah, I mean, I could easily be convinced. I just don't know.
Well, I think Autumn thinks we need that other person, but I don't know what kind of evidence you're gonna get.
I think we've taken the word of directors from top to bottom in the county on how they need to be staffed. If our director or elected official says that they need X amount of people, we haven't really said no to them up until this point. We used to, we don't anymore. So I mean, it's a half of a person. I don't know. Yeah, we're gonna be eating a little bit of full-time benefits and everything else, moving that person from part-time to full-time. But I guess I thought it was just gonna be a move up, and then this part was gonna be a empty spot to fill. But that was just all an assumption. I think you could assume either side of it.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Baker.
it would be a good idea if anybody's got a question about how it operates out there, if we just volunteered for a day and to see what happens. And then we'd have a better idea how to answer that question.
That's a good idea, Ron.
Thank you.
You want to take the first year then?
No, I don't have a question. I'm sure we need the people. It's the people that have the question. I was volunteering other folks.
Well,
I was volunteering.
I think if you take the first year, then we'd just follow in behind you.
If that's the way everybody wants to do it, I'll be glad. I am number 1, so I'll go first.
Do we need a motion for this, or is it
I
just?
think we ought to,
So, yeah.
because I think
Make it
that
official.
we had a different, there's been a couple different opinions of how it might have happened. So I think it'd be cleaner if we just,
So we need a motion to allow for the animal control director to hire a part-time kennel attendant.
Mhm.
So moved.
Support.
it's been moved and supported to allow the animal control director to hire a part-time kennel attendant. Discussion.
Yeah, Chairman. Brenda, would you be willing to weigh in on your thoughts on the position and paying for it?
I guess I'm indifferent to it. She probably does need the help. I think she struggles to get volunteers at times. And we, in the past, have always really relied on volunteers. And I think they're kind of some days drying up. I assumed that she wasn't going to replace it just by the way she submitted her agenda request the first time. So I guess it's partially my fault that we didn't talk about it either, because I assumed she wasn't going to, but she's since asked. So.
I guess I do have, why wasn't this discussed when we were looking at budgets?
What do you mean?
I mean, why didn't Autumn, did Autumn come to us with this need? I guess, we just finalized the budget not too long ago, and now we're looking to hire a whole new person, I guess. I'm just,
Well, she's going to be going on maternity leave here in the next few months, and she's going to have somebody to help do the work while she's off. So that's been her. When she asked me how she approached it, I said, well, either somebody else out there is going to have to pick up the slack and do the work for you while you're off, or you're going to have to come to the board and ask for help. So that's what she's done. That was the route she decided to take.
Was Autumn the director when we did the budget last year? I can't remember the timeline.
Yeah.
Okay.
do we have an estimated dollar amount on what this is going to cost?
I do not, because I don't know if she took the health insurance benefits when the gal came in last week. I haven't, I can find out though. The one that went full-time is relatively young, so she may not have needed the health insurance.
So we've already approved the full-time with the health insurance, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So this is just a minimal cost of a part-time employee.
But the question was, how much did it cost? And we need to know whether that full-time new person took the health insurance or not to establish how much it costs.
Yeah,
That's
because
what
the
the
part-timer's a wash.
That's really the job we
So for
added.
hours.
But that's sort of water under the
Right.
bridge
I
by
mean,
now.
are we,
That's what we did last meeting.
right,
Now we're
are we
just
willing
trying-
to go back and
Mhm.
Well, it is,
revisit this?
I mean, it is part of the story.
It is-
Because
it is
we're
part of the
already
story.
adding to that budget.
The
Now
question-
we're looking to
I agree.
add another one, and I don't feel good about being given 5 minutes to make a decision on whether we should hire an employee without any thought or any numbers being attached to that.
I agree. I understand where you're coming from. I guess my point on that would be is last meeting when we voted to allow her to have a second full-time animal control director, that should have been where we were talking about what the cost associated with that was. Now this is a position that we had given her. She had that in the past. She had a part-time kennel attendant. So you would presume that we believed there was a need for that. And then for us to say now, just get by without it seems kind of shorthanded that, we felt that that position was necessary somewhere in the past to grant that. So
Maybe I should have asked more questions. I guess it was my understanding that this person was going to fill both those roles, that the extra hours were going to go towards her doing some other roles outside of the kennel attendant. I didn't realize that she was not going to do any of that. We were going to need to hire, because if that was the case, I felt like that should have been in the original motion.
That's
And
a good point.
and like I said, the way she submitted her first agenda request, I thought that was the case too.
We could table a motion that's on the floor and ask the director to the next meeting to explain the rationale if you're more comfortable with it, I suppose.
We're trying to figure out whether we want to add a part-time kennel attendant that we've already put in the budget, knowing that we've already added the full-time person last meeting.
Here's the problem. That person was going from part-time to full-time. That's not what's happening here. We're basically hired a full-time person, and now we're going to replace it with a part-time. And so there's a difference there. Instead of just adding some hours to a part-timer, we're adding hours and hiring another position. So it's vastly different than what I was voting on two weeks ago.
I guess I'm having trouble tracking. We've already approved the full-time employee with benefits, and this is just to fill that part-time kennel attendant position. That's the motion that was made.
That's right. But I think Commissioner Mahar's concern is when we voted on it last meeting, he believed, and I think there's some validity to that it was a part-time kennel attendant that currently worked there was going to get the training and become a full-time animal control officer, but be kind of a shared responsibility type person, if you will. They were going to work. They were going to have the credentials to fill in for Autumn on the animal control side, but they were still going to have some time allotted to do the kennel attendant.
But I don't think the union allows that.
Well, the union doesn't get involved in the day-to-day ops out there either. She couldn't be classified as both because one was a union position, one wasn't, but.
What's your pleasure? We got a motion on the floor to allow the hiring of a part-time kennel attendant. If there's no other motions or discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Any other? That's all you've got, Brenda, control of correspondence. Number 3, chair or board correspondence. I don't have anything. Does any member of the board have any correspondence for us?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Peterson.
as per the last meeting, I had asked the clerk when she was going to be moved out of her office. Her lovely replacement has said she has taken a well-needed and well-deserved vacation, I'm sure. But I'm just wondering what the timeline has now gotten to. I know that there's elections coming up in February. I don't think she's going to be she's not going to have enough time to do it then. I'm wondering, I know the equalization is chomping at the bit to get in those offices. I'm sure that Veterans Affairs is still needing more space. I'm just wondering what are we going to do here?
What's the timeline that was given to us last?
End of the month.
And that won't happen now with the.
I have no clue,
Vacation.
but I don't know.
Much stuff there physically is there? Doug, do you know? Stephanie, do you have any idea?
I think it's all confined to just her office. I know she was in there last week doing some stuff. I haven't been in there probably in the last couple weeks, so I don't know exactly how much is left in there.
If you were to guess based on like those, I'm thinking of like those Rubbermaid totes, would it all fit in 20 of those totes?
Doug, are all the cabinets, like the lateral files, are those all out of there? They moved them all out, didn't they?
Yes, so it's just boxes and stuff there, and what's personal, what business, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head how many totes. With the lateral files all being gone, I would think it wouldn't be too many, but
Is some of it boxed?
some of it is boxed. I know she was trying to take as less as she could. She was trying to shred some stuff. So.
Some of it's boxed and some of it would just be like loose files that would need to be hauled somehow. I've talked to Brenda about this. My suggestion would be, and just so that it's clear and there's no misunderstanding about who did what with the records, is I would suggest that we have someone of credibility witness or oversee the maintenance guy's removal of that and mark that they saw the contents of this file go in box A and this in B and C and delivered to the clerk's court office so that you can demonstrate and maintain a chain of custody so that there's no discrepancy on, well, you guys screwed this up and you lost all these 100-year-old records, and just move it. Because the maintenance guys ultimately are going to do the physical work when it comes down to it anyway, of moving it. And if we're waiting that impatiently to get in there and do the renovation, that would be my solution for how to go about doing it.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Baker.
would a retired police officer fit that category?
Would, in my opinion.
Yeah, mine too.
Do you know one?
I'm looking at a couple of them.
Do you know one that wants to?
No. I know two that are qualified.
Well, really, at the end of the day, it's not a huge issue. I don't want to, continue to put this on the back burner is the only thing. I think we set out a deadline.
We put it out there. We had a deadline. She got more aggressive. The deadline got reached for the employees and the bulk of the move way sooner than what it was, but the deadline was the end of the year. That's come and gone. Then we had a January 31st deadline that's not going to get met. I couldn't agree with you more, but I don't know, short of the action I suggested, how we facilitate doing that on our own and be safe about doing it.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But I don't think that's a big stretch. Get the maintenance guys on an afternoon or a day that fits their schedule. Get someone from the sheriff's department or the controller's office or someone that you think meets the credibility of witnessing that and mark and identify and deliver it out to the clerk's court office, and then the chain of custody can be established, and there it is. And we quit fighting about when and how it's gonna get moved.
Is that your motion?
I can't make
Oh.
motions, but that's my suggestion. That's my idea, how we do it.
Is, and maybe Stephanie can speak to this, is the holdup at this point a matter of Chris determining where certain stuff goes? I mean, and that's a lot. I mean, so, yeah,
To be
if you
honest,
can't
I'm
answer.
not quite sure what's left in that office, so I don't really know.
It's kind of unfair. I mean, I think
Yeah, I
it's
know what you're
unfair
saying.
to ask Stephanie that and put her in the middle of the ongoing saga between us and the clerk, I guess.
Is that our understanding, I guess? I mean, Brenda, is that your understanding on why it hasn't been, the stuff hasn't been moved because we need Chris to determine where it goes?
No,
What
it
is-
all needs to go to her new office. It just needs Chris to do it.
I think if there's personal,
Yeah, there might be some stuff that she's gonna throw away, but that's my point in us going out there and deciding, well, this looks like junk, we'll throw this away. Then the sky's falling. So let's just box it all up, witness where it went, deliver it out there. Chain of custody is still in her possession. No one else had access to it. There's no way anything can be missing. And then she can deal with it on her own timeline. But it's out of the space that isn't hers anymore, and we can move on with that project.
I can't find any flaws in your logic, Mr. Chairman. Makes perfect sense to me.
Were you saying have somebody from the clerk's office there when it happened, or just controller or sheriff?
Sure
I'd
would be
rather have
nice to
somebody
have
from the,
somebody from the clerk's office
yeah,
there.
like her deputy or somebody that,
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if we can mandate, I don't know if we can control her staff. I think her staff works for her. I don't know that we can assign them duties, but we can, certainly if they wanted to be there, they're more than welcome to be there to witness it.
to me, that would make more sense with chain of custody. That somebody from the office went with them, or.
I think the problem with that is they work for her, and if she
Sure, yeah.
decides that they're not available until the 14th of March, then that's the box we're put in again. So
I'll give you
getting
that.
our own expert to testify or validate where the stuff went, then we set the time schedule when it's going to happen.
not positive we'll be able to talk any department directors or elected officials into having somebody
Bingo.
oversee the moving or
Mhm.
indexing all the stuff being moved is the only problem. It's a great idea on paper, but I don't see anybody giving up a person for a day. I don't
Hire
know.
Jamie Ballard. Who? Jamie Ballard, some court officer, Richie Waite, somebody that's an officer of the court. Doesn't have to be a county employee. If they don't want to do it, don't do it.
I bet you Ballard Court Services would.
Well, like I say, I was just inquiring into what the board wants to do. I initiated the move, and so I felt it necessary to ask what the board wanted to do and moving forward.
I'd like to see a motion to allow maintenance to move the stuff. I'm just not sure the specifics. I'm not sure if we need to set a date. I'm not sure if we need to have in the motion who's going to oversee it. Or if we can just vote to allow maintenance to move it and then work on some specifics later.
Have you ever tried to baptize a cat?
Negative. What do you guys think down at that end?
I made my piece.
I don't disagree. I think that's a good idea. I wonder if the sheriff could provide somebody for a day, if there's any way. I know he's always so short-handed, but
I don't think it's a day. Do you, Doug?
Half day, probably.
Probably not.
half a day, whatever. If we could ask him if he could supply person that could do that for us?
We could ask. You may not want to get in the middle of it either.
No, I like the idea of having Mr. Ballard help out. But we don't know if he would want to or not.
Do it. Could we?
I can reach out to him.
Yeah, that'd be a fee.
But again, we're gonna be 2 weeks out from there if there's no motion. I mean, if we want to wait until February, that's fine. It doesn't matter to me. If we would, want to grant the clerk that decency and saying, we'll talk with her about it and see what she's willing to do. I don't think that would be
This is just
out of question.
It's just a matter of moving paper, it sounds like, right? Is it mostly just paper?
Pretty much, yeah.
Moving paper from one place to another.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound complicated at all to me. As long as there's a change, as long as you're keeping track of what you're transporting.
So
You could do
should
that in
we-
writing. You could do it with pictures.
So do we allow the controller discretion on who to hire to oversee the move? Would that be acceptable with everybody?
That'd be fine with me.
Would be with me.
I'll struggle through this motion. I move to allow the controller to appoint an individual or company to oversee the clerk's move to be executed before our next meeting. I don't know. Close enough? I don't know. That's 2 weeks. I would think even the clerk could get on board with that.
It's 3 weeks, I think.
3 weeks on, geez, even more time.
Is there support?
Support.
Been moved and supported to direct the controller to find an individual or company to oversee the final removal of items from the clerk's office on the hill to the circuit court clerk's office and complete the move at her discretion, I guess. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Cohen.
I think we trust our county administrator / controller with tasks far more complicated than this. I think she can handle it.
Okay. I think that realistically, she or someone from her office could be that person. It doesn't, there's no qualifications to be that person. It needs to be somebody that's trustworthy, competent, that could testify credibly that this reasonable care was taken in moving the documents.
I think of a lot of pictures were taken. And
Take some pictures and
Yeah.
oversee it. Brenda could do it herself if she wanted to, or she could assign someone in her office. It just needs to be a outside, somebody that can testify if the need arises that due care was taken and there was nothing thrown away and there was nothing left behind and everything there got boxed up and hauled and delivered to the next spot. And I can write the script on this for you if you want to. If we spend any money on that position, then the clerk will come in at the next meeting and say, you wasted county money because all you had to do was ask me and I would have moved it. And my response to that is, we've been waiting for you to do that since September. So that's not the case.
When is Chris back from vacation?
She'll be back on Monday.
Okay. Part of me feels like this should take place at least Monday or after, so at least she has an opportunity to be here if she.
Yeah, I'll reach out to her.
Any other discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any other commissioner correspondence? If not, old business, we don't have anything. Public comments.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Or then moved and supported to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Kill that battery life.